Call the meeting of the Sonoma Coast Municipal Advisory Council regular meeting tonight. Oh, sure. Would you join me in the pledge of allegiance, please? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you. All. Okay. Roll call. It's Ramirez.
Scott Foster.
Here.
Beth Tony is not here. Caroline Madden. Here. Jill Lippett is not here. Scott Nevin is not here. George Kelly's
Here.
Ginny Nichols here. And John Laughlin
Here.
Quorum has been achieved.
Thank you. The consent agenda, the minutes for May 15th. Any comments on the minutes? If no comments, so I have a motion to approve those minutes.
May 15th. Yeah, there is one
Good.
typo. Public comments, discussion, bullet point one, non-industrial, should be non-industrial.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So other than that, you have a motion?
I have a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
George seconds it. Thank you.
We can just do a voice vote. It doesn't have to be roll call. There's nobody online.
There's nobody.
We don't have any members participating remotely, so you can say all in favor. We don't have to have
Okay.
a roll call.
Okay,
So do you want to do the vote?
has to be a roll.
It doesn't have to be a roll call.
Okay,
Just say
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot that.
Okay.
All right. Any conflicts of interest for any of the board members? Am I seeing a no?
No.
No.
None. No.
Carol? Excuse me.
So you just make me live me again.
And, excuse me, Jenny?
No.
No, do you have a conflict?
No, I have no.
Okay, thanks. Nobody has a conflict of interest. Okay. Council member comments not listed on the agenda. You have anything?
I do not.
I do not either. We're focused on what we got tonight. John?
No, nothing besides the agenda.
Thank you, Jenny.
No, nothing besides the
Sure.
agenda. Just the agenda.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, on to county report. Linda Hopkins couldn't tune in tonight because of.
She is here. She is online.
She is.
And I'm gonna,
Yeah,
I'll
thank
turn
you.
on so you can not only hear her, but see her also, that she can get started.
I almost spilled the beans. Oops. Linda, we can't see you, if you're on, if you're ready.
Great, yes. Thank you so much. And as I explained to Chair Foster, I am unable to attend in person because my husband's out of town. So I've got the 3 kids, including one who just recently fractured her elbow, which is what I have been dealing with ever since that happened late last week. And so I appreciate the opportunity to participate remotely. I was requested to provide a briefing and an update on the sanctuary ordinance proposal. I believe that Debbie has distributed kind of a statement of my position, and I also wanted to share an update on how the ad hoc that we formed, which consists of myself and Vice Chair Rebecca Hermosillo, is going. We have formed an immigrant support ad hoc to meet with the Sanctuary Coalition as well as other interested stakeholders to actually move forward with a few things. Number one, we actually are looking to bring an urgency ordinance before the Board of Supervisors regarding masking by law enforcement. There was a state law that was passed about this. It will not take effect until January, and so we are hoping to implement as quickly as possible an urgency ordinance prohibiting the unnecessary masking of law enforcement, and also the sort of hiding of their identities, as we have seen in other cities really around the country with respect to ICE officers, where you have folks who are masked and who are not actually identified either by badge or by a name tag. And so it actually leads to what could essentially be kidnapping of people in, plain sight, right, by someone who is not actually law enforcement. And so unfortunately, we've seen in cities such as LA, people posing as law enforcement and mimicking these behaviors, but they are actually criminals who are actually, taking illegal actions. So that will be moving forward before the board. It will actually be sort of daylighted at the Board of Supervisors next week. However, it is subject to meet and confer with our Deputy Sheriff's Association. So we will not be able to move forward with implementing that ordinance until the meet and confer process is complete. And my understanding is that is moving forward with a sense of urgency. I also want to be very clear that this is not actually about our deputies, because all of our deputies have their names actually sewn into their uniforms. They do not wear masks unless they are required to, like during a wildfire or a SWAT operation. They are part of our community and they do not hide their identities. And so, but because this ordinance would potentially apply to them as well, that is why there is a legally required meet and confer process with both the Deputy Sheriff's Association and I believe also SCLEA, the Sonoma County Law Enforcement Officers Association. So that's an update there. Another update that I wanted to share from the Immigrant Support Ad Hoc is that we actually had a sort of formal list of requests from the Sanctuary Coalition, which includes training and ICE protocols for county employees, which we actually have already implemented and are sort of continuing to refine that process. There was also a request for an emergency plan for what to happen if there is an ICE raid, a request for additional resources, including for legal defense, promotoras, healthcare, housing, a non-cooperation ordinance addressing the impending healthcare disaster as a result of the federal budget cuts. And then there was also a request to evaluate and change the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office policies, which, to be very clear, the Board of Supervisors does not have the jurisdictional authority to do. And so we are not prepared at this point in time as the ad hoc, and I have not heard support expressed from my colleagues on the board either to direct the sheriff or to sort of get into the sheriff's business with respect to his policies, which are actually more progressive than the state of California. So he's actually more restrictive in terms of how he and when he notifies ICE than state law allows for. And so happy to answer any questions. I also want to give a thank you, and I know it's on the agenda later and I will be listening in to that and happy to participate if there are any questions as well. But a thank you to Beth Bruzzoni, who provided me with a bit of a recap of the meeting that was held about Carrington Ranch last week. We've had a couple of conversations since, and I look forward to the presentation before the MAC later this evening.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for taking a serious time out of the families.
I do have a question. You've offered questions, and I think that's wonderful. And again, thank you for being here. And I applaud the initiatives that you've referenced relative to ICE. Assuming that the urgency law is adopted and it's presumably congruent with what the state legislature has enacted as well, are there penalties associated? How will this be enforced?
That is a brilliant question, and one we are actually debating currently with County Council. It is unlikely that we could actually, for instance, enforce a misdemeanor against, an ICE officer. One of the things that we are discussing is civil penalties. It's also unlikely that the Department of Homeland Security would ever actually give us money if we sent them a bill, but it might be at least satisfying to send them a bill. I also actually wanted to share a piece of information, and thank you very much to Lupe Catalan, our field representative for the 5th, one of our field representatives for the 5th District, for letting me know about this. On Friday night, there was actually a report of a masked officer in Petaluma in an unmarked vehicle. And so the North Bay Rapid Response Network investigated, and what they came to the conclusion is that it was actually a Marin deputy from the Marin County Sheriff's Office. And so after we heard about this, I texted Sheriff Engram late on Friday, and he was able to confirm with the Marin County Sheriff that actually, yes, there was a masked Marin County Narcotics Unit deputy in Petaluma, which generated a considerable amount of fear in our immigrant population. And so we are hopeful that also passing an urgency ordinance like this would prohibit other law enforcement agencies from doing that kind of thing, because that caused a huge amount of fear. And it just feels very, very unnecessary at this point in time. And then to find out that it's sort of from our sister county to the south, you just kind of are scratching your head as to why one would do that.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience regarding this?
Are you also going to present the items?
Yeah, I have a couple things on, the county after Supervisor Howell is done.
Okay, thank you. A question I had was, are Sonoma County deputies allowed to intervene if they suspect a bogus raid of some kind?
Yeah.
That's a great question. And so that would be, sort of under the jurisdiction and the policy direction of the Sonoma County Sheriff, his determination to make. But, that is one of, I think, the top concerns. And I have had that conversation with the sheriff, that someone could be pretending to be ICE and could be actually in the process of conducting a crime. And my understanding is that in other jurisdictions, they have not necessarily provided advance notice to local law enforcement agencies of an impending ICE raid, which creates a very potentially dangerous situation. We also have literally thousands of concealed carry weapon permits that are active in Sonoma County. And so you could also have the situation of a good Samaritan attempting to interfere with what they believe to be a kidnapping, and which in fact is an undercover ICE officer. It's very dangerous all around.
Sure. Out here, we have a resident deputy who has historically been very involved in the community and, a friendly face for everyone. And it would be nice if he were authorized to respond to a raid just to confirm that what was happening was legitimate.
Yeah, that is definitely, I can pass along this feedback and these questions to the sheriff and see if there's an opportunity either to receive an email update to the MAC regarding what their protocol and, sort of response would look like, or if there's an ability to send a representative to a future meeting. But I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, thanks. And we can get that word out. Any other questions for Supervisor Hopkins? Hearing none.
Well, I do have one
Oh,
question.
wait.
Suppose that there is an ICE raid and then the people are disappeared. How are their whereabouts like tracked? And because I saw something in the media where one woman was wrongfully detained and she just started shouting her name and her phone number and telling people to call her mother. So and then she wound up for 2 days in a jail. But she was an American citizen too, so lots of things are happening along these very strange places we find ourselves these days. But how are people tracked when they get into the custody, and who's notified?
So that's a really great question. And what you have described, I think, is the fear of everyone that we're meeting with on the immigrant support ad hoc, that people are disappearing, that they don't have an opportunity to, have their family or friends or loved ones notified, and that it has been very, very difficult to get information as to their whereabouts. And that in some cases, they're being deported to other countries that are not even their home country. So the worst fear right now, right, is that your loved ones have no idea where you are, and you are deported to a nation in which you don't even speak the language there. And that unfortunately is a reality for immigrants today. And so the only thing, we have no ability to track them in county government, but I would say that we did resource and provide $500,000 to the Community Foundation earlier this year to actually try to get support out to our local NGOs who are, providing support specifically to our immigrant communities. We also actually in January allocated funding that we went through the Secure Families Collaborative, which is the network of deportation, defense, and immigrant services providing legal services that we have here in Sonoma County that was actually formed the first time that Donald Trump was in office. And it was actually my predecessor, then supervisor Efren Carrillo, who gave me a call before I was even sworn in and said, would you come to this meeting with County Council and with the Human Rights Commission? We're going to try to do this thing. We need to stand up some deportation defense services. We don't know what's coming. And so that was kind of the initiation of that, which is still carried through all of these years, but we don't have enough deportation defense attorneys. And so the other thing that I would suggest is that there is a growing network of legal observers, and you can actually take a legal observer training that would actually help if there were a raid for you to be able to ask some of those questions and try to get as much information as you can, which is then helpful to the loved ones and family members of the folks who are being targeted by the raid. And we've actually had an opportunity to host some of these types of trainings at our West County Services Center in Guerneville. And it's scheduled for our next immigrant support ad hoc to actually discuss having district town halls in all parts of the county. And it would be great to get some, up in the North Coast or, a little bit further afield than Guerneville to try to get the word out to folks about how they can be part of a solution or just ensuring that legal requirements are met.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it very much. Thanks. Okay, on to Ms. Ramirez.
So,
A couple of things, right?
yeah, two things. I just wanted to, remind folks that the, appointment process for the 2026 appointments has begun. As you can see, we have had, from lack of attendance, like at the last meeting, unable to make a quorum. So any people that that might be interested, do what you can to reach out. We either have vacancies for a representative or an alternate in Sea Ranch, Annapolis, Timber Cove, Jenner, Bodega Bay, Bodega Valley Ford, and Fort Ross, West Pasadero. The deadline for application is September 24th. But obviously, if we don't have sufficient applicants, we'll keep recruiting. It doesn't end.
Okay.
It just they might not get appointed in time for January meeting, but we will continue working to fill all of those seats ongoing. And then the second thing that I wanted to just flag for you is that we're looking at possibly shifting from being on the third Thursday of each odd month to the fourth Thursday of each odd month. And what that would do, you guys have had Che working with you, but what that would do, I'm gonna be facilitating the River MAC and the Coast MAC, and it just gives a little bit more space to have more time with the chair and vice chair leading up to your meeting and not have another MAC meeting during that window. And then the other thing I think that'll be very helpful is that it will match up with the Supervisor Hopkins newsletter, so that you're not sending out a blank link, hang on to this link because soon the agenda will be there. The agenda will be able to be posted and sent out with the newsletter, so people can go there. So, any feedback on that?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with changing it, other than I think we're gonna have a conflict in November, the 11th month, since the fourth Thursday,
That is a very good point.
which falls on Thanksgiving.
Right,
Is there any reason we can't make an adjustment periodically?
let me look into how that would, yeah. There's something can be done, but knowing it up front is very important, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just checked in the 2026 next year.
Mhm.
The fourth Thursday is Thanksgiving
Right,
that year.
right.
Yeah.
So another thing, and I'm just brainstorming here, I would need to look back at calendars and stuff, and maybe even months. Then we wouldn't have Thanksgiving as an issue. We don't have to decide this right now. Just the idea that it might move so that they can be spaced a little bit better
Okay.
to fit with the newsletter and staff.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good. Is that it for county?
that's it for county.
Okay. So if anybody out here wants this job. Or you know somebody who might, there's me and there's an alternate. I don't have any intention of leaving, but if somebody really wanted it, you might convince me. Pass the word. Okay, we're now at the section for public comments.
I'd like to first respond to Debbie.
Oh, you got something for David?
Yeah.
Yes.
First off, thank you guys for coming. And Linda, maybe you could reach out to Kashaya, because you didn't mention Kashaya, how you see. I think they would benefit from your asking. I don't think at our level we would be very successful. So Stop Farmer Cruise Ranch,
Are we talking public comment?
about what Debbie talked about, no, this is not public comment, this is in response to what Debbie said.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Coast MAC application was representative responsibilities. They are attend meetings and be prepared, provide input, participate in your community and build a relationship with district-wide staff to facilitate better understanding. The May Coast MAC meeting in Bodega Bay was attended by 6 of 9 council members. At least there was a quorum. The July meeting was held at Sea Ranch, but only 4 of 9 council members attended, not a quorum, so no MAC meeting. There are 5 tonight. There are alternates for a reason. No matter where the meeting is, it is a long drive for some. If, as a current member, you feel it's too much to meet the basic responsibilities, I suggest that you not re-up or even resign. There are those among your neighbors that need to be encouraged to step up. People like to be asked. Ask them. This is an advisory body. Give good advice, and hopefully the advisee will hear each of our communities, and to the point, hear our shared coastal community voice in concert. The MAC needs each and every one of you to be effective. Step it up, please, everyone, show up.
Thank you. That was very well done.
Nice going.
No, that's good. I appreciate those comments. Thank you. Okay, now the real public comments. This is for matters not on the agenda. If there's something on the agenda you want to make a comment about, we'll do it during that part of the program. So if you have something you need to say, please step up to the podium, tell us who you are. And speak the piece.
I could have done it from my seat. John
Then
Rawson,
our friends online.
John Rawson, not really, item of discussion, it was more of a question. I kind of tend to live under a rock around here, so I don't get all the updates, but, is Linda Hopkins still on the line?
She's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
My question is have our resident deputy been replaced? And if not, is there a timeline? And who's covering if it hasn't happened yet?
It's happened.
It's happened. Does he have a name?
Brandon or something?
Brayden,
Great.
He was at the
he's been coming to the
market.
What?
He's been coming to the Sunday market and introducing himself. And he's living in the same house.
So he's in the county house down in.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That was it.
Sure.
First.
Any other public comments?
Yeah, we did, okay, I'll go. You know more there. Thank you again. Scott Farmer Cruise Ranch. Our greater Timberco community is mourning. Deputy Sheriff Jeremy Lyle was our resident deputy. He cared about each of us, and we each felt it. Those that serve to protect us, our firefighters, deputies, and paramedics, experience daily trauma in their work. I understand that there are very good programs in place here that support our first responders. I also understand there are new and very effective tools to provide individual empirical feedback that enhance existing, more traditional support programs for our first responders. Let's get better.
Thank you. Very true.
Hi, my name is Janine Bergoli, and I'm from Timber Cove. I wanted to address the deputy sheriff and, that Jeremy. And I wanted to address it in a complex, PTSD, as complex traumatic PTSD. It's something that's real among our community, and it's something that's important. What is it? Well, I'm not qualified to say exactly what it is, but basically my understanding is it's reaction of an accumulation of past experiences that cause a block or dysregulation in our nervous system. It's kind of like having, think of it like a bad electrical storm that shuts down our power and is disruptive to our communication network in our body. Our first responders act as our backup system, backup power system. They help support us. We have an opportunity and a responsibility to support people that keep us safe. Jeremy and Maury's death is a call to action. As a community, to commit to helping the people that help us and make a difference in our lives. We should have that backup system. We should have their backs. We should have the backs of the people that support our backup system. The people every day that risk their lives to protect us deserve our protection. What do we need? How do we meet this call for action? One, visit a website. There's an awesome website called www.volunteerfire.org/wellness, and I can submit that. They donate your time to this organization, and I hope the county really does support this organization because it's a good one. And our emergency service department and our first responders need that. They support alternative, integrative health and wellness solutions. So I'm requesting the county and all of us support that organization. Ask for our local representatives, Linda, please. I'm asking you to give to the integrative medical and wellness technology platforms to enhance the existing healthcare support provider to our first responders. Support and volunteer local wellness fairs designed to bring awareness to suicide prevention programs and provide mental health aid. Since the coastal community can be easily physically separated from other parts of our county, prevent us from being isolated, because it's easy for us to get isolated out here. It really is. This is Suicide Prevention Month. We need to be aware of that, and we need to understand that mental health is a disease, just like any other disease in our body. We need to support people and give them the medical care that they need. So don't isolate us. Be a voice as we are today to help support, show care, write letters, listen to their needs, speak up and rise up to do better for our new local deputy and our steadfast fire department. They deserve that. They deserve our support.
Thank you. Hello. Morning. State your name
My name's Greg Gunn, I live in Casadero, a mile up the road. Just to follow up on what Scott and Jenny said. It's so important, I was a member of the volunteer fire department here. And because this is a very small community and an aged community. I totaled up, kept track of, I don't know. I've been on 12 calls where CPR was initiated. And 6 of them I knew. Because of the small community. And they had some stuff available for us, you know, counseling if you wanted it. But anything you can do. Any program you can get to enhance and to help the first responders or anyone in our community, absolutely, especially now. It's getting a little weird, you know, it's getting a little weird. A lot weird, actually, but absolutely. I would just say that's a fantastic thing to aim for, to do, to help our community, help the mental health. It is, I've got it. See you later.
Thank you, Greg.
I gotta go.
Any other public oh, hi, Frank.
This is a recommendation to your MAC committee. Consider what action the county might take. And that will involve a little legwork on your part. But after that consideration, think about making a recommendation. In fact, this citizen, Frank Locatell, I didn't identify myself, Frank Locatell, Timber Cove, across the street at CU here. Take into consideration your recommendation. And based on what the county can or should be doing. And I want to track that as a citizen, I'm going to track that recommendation. I've said enough.
Thank you, Frank. That was about the sheriff, right? That was about the deputy. You were talking about the deputy?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Scott.
My pleasure, Frank. Thank you. Any other public comments? Is there anybody online who wants to do something?
I don't see any hands. Oh, I do see a hand raised. Tracy, do you wanna?
Julie, please unmute to speak.
I'm unmuted, right?
Yes.
Actually, what I want to say, I think there's several of us online that will speak when we get to the Carrington Ranch topic. I just
Okay.
wanted to acknowledge because some of us are texting to make sure that we were heard.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, sorry, I'm Julie Schneider. I live in Carmet.
Okay, and if your comments have to do with Carrington Ranch, could you hold those until we actually hit that on the agenda?
That's what I just said.
Okay. Oh, okay. Is that your comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you knew there was a bunch of us out here that will be
Oh,
speaking later. That's all I was saying.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay. Next topic is Meals on Wheels. This has gotten press. There's a fair amount of anxiety in the community over the future of the Meals on Wheels program. I can say that Carolyn Andre, who's the chair of the board of Coastal Seniors, and I met with Paul Dunaway, who's head of AAA at Adult and Aging something, activities, assistance.
Adult Aging Division.
Adult making division. Anyway, we met, and as ever, there are two sides to every story. I think it's fair to say the county had some legitimate concerns. And so that's what we're gonna talk about tonight, and then we're gonna talk about the future and how we're working toward a good solution for this to support the Meals on Wheels program on North Coast. So those of you who are listening tonight, this is when you want to turn up the volume. And without further ado, introduce Carolyn Andre. If you could move to the podium, please, and speak clearly.
I told my husband I was the head of adult aging programs in our house. It went nowhere. Hi, thank you for having me back. Well, let me tell you a few things about what's going on with Meals on Wheels. I live at the Sea Ranch. And our community is even older than any of yours. I would put my money on next year. Over 82% where we are now, the seniors. And like the fellow who was a fireman, a volunteer fireman, and was going to too many houses where people were having problems. I show up at a lot of houses every week. And I've already seen more deaths and issues when I get there and having to call the poor fire departments to come lift somebody because I'm afraid to touch them. That they're really hurt. And having recently had an issue, which is pretty clear in my walking, that I'm very unstable at the moment. And having been on the Coast Life Support Ambulance Service as a board member only for 10 years. The worst thing that can happen to those of us who are older is to fall. And often we don't come back home and we end up somewhere we don't want to be. That's the happy beginning. The other part of that is we're doing quite well, particularly on Meals on Wheels. You guys know that we got cut off from Sonoma County on that. We are continuing to pay for it. But my concern is actually a new one. When in the last couple weeks, I started going through numbers, which I do periodically, to see where we're going here. And the number of people getting meals has more than doubled since 2019, and 2019 led us into the COVID years. And more people were getting meals because they were afraid to go out. And I get that. But in terms of having the staff to handle, let alone the volunteers. And any of you looking for volunteers and things that you do, I'm imagining confront some of the same things we do. It is really difficult to get volunteers. And it's even harder to get employees. And one of the reasons, unfortunately, I was not against this originally, though I am now, this thing of all the rental houses, which our communities have a lot of, all going to short-term rentals. Means we can't we actually found someone to hire a year ago in a very important spot. We couldn't do anything about it. she looked for housing, we looked for housing for 3 months. And she just gave up. So, I don't know where we're going with this. I'm just saying at some point, and by the way, it's also hard to keep asking donors for money. Our prices are up more than lots of places. And people are getting older and have less money. And it's hard. So I don't know what it means yet. I'm still tossing around things. And I haven't even talked to my board yet, but that's happening this week. We'll be talking about, next week. And I'm gonna bring up all these things because we're gonna have to figure out what to do and how to cover these costs. Even, I'll say when, we get money back from Sonoma County. Because I don't think we're gonna see this slow down for a while. We're gonna be into this for quite a while. So that's sort of a concern that's on my mind, as well as us getting money and continuing. And I'd love for us to be able to grow. But this is the first time I've ever thought, wow, I don't know if we can grow with the population. Okay. Scott mentioned that we had a meeting with Paul Dunaway, who you're going to hear from next. And he was meeting with us to tell me at that point in time why we had our money cut off. And I actually, I had listened to staff who had worked with them to get the money and what they had said. And not everything they said was wrong, but not everything they said was right. And the biggest issue, from my point of view, I don't know if Paul would agree with this, but was more an issue of attitude. And how you talk to somebody when, we negotiate on some of these things. It's not all a done deal, you have to do this, or we don't want to do that, or don't do that. There's some discussion that goes back and forth. And like any business relationship, it should actually be businesslike. And unfortunately, I think we've had an issue with staff that well, we didn't do it right. We're not in charge of everything. In fact, I find the older I get, I'm not in charge of much of anything anymore. And I think when you're an employee of someone, you learn that, hopefully, pretty young, that you don't get to dictate to your boss or your boss's boss or the people who are giving you money on how we're gonna operate here. If we could, I would be the queen of this room, and it hasn't happened yet. And it's not ever gonna happen, I'm very sad to say. So. We are now working together with the county. Things are gonna change. I have made some apologies to Paul. And also to Scott, who jumped to our defense, and others, saying we weren't, we weren't all in the right here. And it's humbling. It really is. But it's gonna change. And then when it does, just as Scott suggested, I want someone else to become the board chair of coastal seniors. Cause I've been doing this for 14 years. And I'm getting old and tired. And I know it'll shock you, but I can be snippy sometimes too, as Scott knows. I was on a board he was head of for quite a few years. Anyway, I think we will solve this. And I think it will be better for all of us. And we're gonna make some changes at Coastal Seniors. And those aren't all worked out yet. They take time. But they're coming. So,
Would you reserve some time for a question
yes, of course,
or two?
sure.
Why don't you finish first?
Well, I was then going to introduce Paul. I'd like to wait on that. And take questions now, and let me just say one thing. I don't want to discourage you about this. Because we have thought at other times along the way, God, how are we gonna add this other program? People were talking about mental health issues. I did our suicide prevention stuff. And we have a lot of people who are alone. Their spouses died. They've outlived their money. And they're homebound. You know what that's like? That's not fun. And it causes major problems. And one of the things that is I'm constantly harping on that we're not doing well enough. And there are good reasons for it, is we started a visitor program about 10 years ago, where we team people up. You know, have someone go visit this person or that person, and they do some of what the person wants, but they agree on what they're gonna do. So I'll drive you to the beach if you wanna go to the beach, or we can just sit here and chat. Just having someone to talk to them is a huge deal, and we're not doing enough of it. And we're gonna get better on that. We're gonna get more volunteers. And I'll probably be after some of you. Warning in advance. That this is something we owe people. We're gonna be there too. Hopefully. I guess it's better than not being here. Sometimes it doesn't look like it. Okay, yes, ask your question.
On the latest problem, your replacement. You're tired and done with this about a suggestion. And that's that you may think about perusing the community as you've already hinted at. Except well before the election of your office. And mentor that person. Actually expose them to the reality of what you do and have done for 12 or more years. And so this is a recommendation that you could in fact mentor and groom that person and prepare them. And then whatever your election process is, and I don't need to understand that. It will recognize the fact that your leadership, your mentoring of this person will have aptly prepared them. And so there is the recommendation. Now, a second and perhaps a broader recommendation. I'm gonna ask you to have a little faith in what I'm saying right now to you. Because there is some anonymity that needs to be maintained here. But rather than the donors that you described, that vital part of donation, individual donors. I'm wondering, in fact, I have evidence that you may not be perusing the broader spectrum of philanthropic organizations in Sonoma County. I have heard, incidentally, and interjected myself, I'm part of the Aging and Community group here, and we're well acquainted and have offered support to your Meals on Wheels. But, and so, as it's with that interest and with an anonymous donor organization, I mean, these are grantors
Frank,
that you need. And so,
That's a good thought.
yeah, it is a good thought. It's a pregnant thought. And in conclusion, I'd like to recommend a second recommendation. And that's that your organization peruse that list of grantors. And make contact with them, give them your pitch. Done.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I will tell you on the first point you raised about mentor some people to take a position I at some point would like to move off of. I actually decided that a couple of weeks ago. And I have signed up 2 people at different separately to come out on routes with me into various programs and see what they think and what would they do, and then talk about also what the job would be and responsibilities and so on. But right now, to be honest, I want to see this through.
Yeah, great, thank you.
We're gonna turn this around. And I want to be here for that.
In other words, you're not done yet.
Not quite, but not quite.
Thanks.
On that note, I.
Wait, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted a little clarity, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm dropping in from outer space. I'm vaguely familiar with the concept of Wheels on Meals, but I'm not from a local standpoint. You're from Sea Ranch, and from what I gather, what you said, there was a program in Sea Ranch for Meals and Marines.
No,
Was there one down here?
Our territory, Coastal Seniors, has office space in Point Arena. We are hoping to move to the Wallala area. And I'll tell you in a minute why. Our territory starts in L.
Okay.
And our territory, well, it used to be called South Coast Seniors. I can assure you, no one at the Sea Ranch thought they lived on the South Coast, so no one had any idea they were covered, and they weren't. It started as a Mendocino organization.
So is there a southern border to your jurisdiction?
Yes.
What is it?
It's below you. It's
Here.
It's.
Okay, so there was Meals and Wheels here at some point,
It's,
right?
it is here now.
Oh, it's here now.
It's here now.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you said it was defunded and it was.
No, we
Hey,
we stopped getting our grant money from Sonoma County. But coastals, we're
Why?
paying for it.
Why?
we're gonna get into that, John, and I'd be happy to brief you all about coastal seniors. But this isn't the time to educate the community about
I'm just
that.
trying to get a concept of what the issue is here.
The math is,
The issue
math is
is you
discussed.
had a disagreement over something, And I didn't understand that correctly from staff. And when Paul and I and Scott met, I understood quite differently what happened. And it wasn't all their fault. It was a lot our fault. The only thing I can say that I wish had been done differently, and I hope in the future will be, is if that ever happens again, anything like that, that I get a call about it, or whoever the then chair is. Because I can't be at all the meetings, and I'm not even supposed to be at all the meetings. It's not even really appropriate. And so to find out after the fact that it wasn't all their fault. You know, it wasn't even mostly their fault. That's pretty hard. And then I had people like Scott out there arguing for us. You feel like a jerk. Because I didn't know the full story. I do now. And it will change.
So may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
And I appreciate, you know, you obviously have come and presented in several meetings and it's been very helpful. And I think that, you know, as one participant as a MAC rep, my interest is in ensuring that whatever disconnections or misunderstandings existed that resulted in a lack of funding. It's wonderful to hear that you have met directly with your principals on the other side of the table. In your view, is there a reasonable probability that funding will be reinstated for Meals on Wheels?
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll hear
That's
Paul's
great.
view.
That's what I think that
Yes,
certainly
I think there is.
we need to understand, and I think folks that have been following this, and so thank you. It's not easy. I mean, many of us have found ourselves in these situations. I think the great lesson here is principal to principal, meaning the most senior folks that are involved occasionally check in, and so thank you for sharing all that. Very helpful.
Thank you.
I have a super question.
Can you come to the podium because the online can't hear you?
I have a super quick question is, we have a bulletin and I was wondering if we could get your website in our bulletin with maybe some small job descriptions of kinds of volunteers that you need. We also, through Aging in the Community, have a website and I'd like to post some things on that for you to support you. Because we need to be represented too down here and give you support if we want your services to be guided.
Just so you know, working through other people there, we have gotten support from you guys.
Great, okay.
We didn't originally have your area.
Yeah,
We took it on 5 or 6 years ago and got a lot of help.
Scott was great about mobilizing, thank you for that.
Sorry.
Was mobilizing letters and stuff like that. And I think that's very good. Just was wondering if I could get that, as I put stuff on our Aging in the Community website. And I want to make that connection so people here are more aware. And the bulletin is a great place to get awareness out about all the things that are needed, because
Thank you.
feeding our nation is essential, especially for adults.
Yes, absolutely. But I want to say, we're gonna make some changes, do some things, so it'll be a couple of months
No problem, just.
before we get through this.
Yeah.
Yes, and we can like it.
Post your website on your website. That's very nice. We got that,
Yeah.
Thanks. Just very good.
I have a side conversation also. Let's hear from the other gentleman. I mean, you said that there are two parts to this. Well, I mean,
Later on the agenda.
well, but it seems to be all connected, is it not?
May I say my?
What do you have to say?
Given what we've just learned, it may not all fit, but let me read it. Comment Scott Farmer, whose ranch, the District 5 September 10 newsletter states that county social efforts are founded in, quote, simple belief, no one in Sonoma County should fall through the cracks, end quote. The newsletter continues to ask, quote, need help with food? Open Doors is the portal with answers. Upon drilling down for coastal meal delivery, Open Doors leads to coastal seniors as the only resource that isn't oversubscribed and will actually provide delivered meals on the coast. This is the third time this MAC has featured this issue. It is unconscionable that we allow our good neighbor to our north to deplete their building funds post an arson fire to serve Sonoma County residents. It seems we have three choices. One, make whole coastal seniors for the good work they do and continue to do. Or two, coastal seniors ceases to provide unreimbursed services and Sonoma County steps up. Or three, coastal meal deliveries simply don't happen. We must not allow the status quo to continue. Why is this so hard? Thank you.
May
Okay.
I make a comment on that,
Sure.
please? Just to be clear, everybody. Even if we had Sonoma County's money right now. When we do Meals on Wheels, just as an example, and it sounds outrageous, but for years. A meal for someone. And that is 2 plates when we deliver, you know, it's a hot plate with vegetables and potatoes or rice or something and chicken. And it's a salad plate, and then there's orange juice and milk and some fruit. And sometimes a dessert if we can sneak it in. Those meals were costing $15 a meal. That's a lot of money. Now that counts the time, that's not literally just food. That's the time when our person puts a menu together for a whole month. And we're straddling 2 counties. So we're doing it for each one. That can take 8 hours to put a month's thing together. And then make sure we have the recipes, the ingredient, everything we need for that. And then we meet with the dietitian who has comments, takes more time. We have people who have to order the food and then get the food delivered. And then we have Meals on Wheels drivers. We don't get paid. I do Meals on Wheels. We don't get paid, but we get reimbursed for mileage. That's 70 cents a mile now. So our meals are now, Rebecca just told me, our executive director, they've gone up to about $18 a meal. We at most might get $4 a meal in funding. So we're never fully funded, and this is just the Meals on Wheels program. We are more funded in transportation. Still not 100%, but then we are in Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels is, I believe, our least funded program, but it's one of the most important.
Okay,
So we'll never get everything that we would love to have. That's not happening in this world.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. It's a very important issue here in this community, and I want to thank Paul for coming out. And he's gonna give us a heads up on what they're doing. And then I'll leave. And thank you again, and I apologize for the confusion that led us to this place, but I think it's a good thing that we can move forward from it.
Yes, absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity to try to set as much of the record straight as possible. I also just want to acknowledge both Scott and Karen for meeting with me. My biggest regret, and I told you guys when we met, was me not taking full advantage of getting ahead of this as much as I could. I want to continue to support coastal seniors. And I'm also just mostly fearful about the damage that's created for anybody needing to access all of the services that are available through the area agency on aging. So, but here we are today, and I have a strong feeling it is going to result in recontracting with coastal seniors. Cody's going to get into that a little bit later about the progress we've made there. And I think it's going to create a bigger opportunity to connect more deeply with the coastal areas around services relating to aging, just in general. So, but what we've prepared is I'm going to do a brief run through about who we serve, about what the services are and how to access our services. Cody is then going to get a little bit into the procurement process, because I know that was brought up during one of the prior meetings. And then, like I said, he's going to give a little bit more detail about what's happening specifically with the contract leader of coastal seniors. So, I already failed, Scott. I know I'm supposed to say my name first. My name is Paul Dunaway. I have the honor to be the Adult and Aging Division Director for the county. I also wear a second hat, which is the one I'm going to be wearing through this conversation, is the Area Agency on Aging Director. And this is Cody. Do you want to just name yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Cody Miller. I am the program manager with the Area Agency on Aging. I've been here for a little under a year. So excited to be here.
And doing a phenomenal job. I can't tell you how lucky I am to have one. So who we serve through the Area Agency on Aging, there are three primary categories. People who are over the age of 60, which, by the way, I join you in saying, would somebody please agree on what defines a senior, for goodness sakes? The Older Americans Act defines a senior as somebody over the age of 60. Adults with disabilities, so that's 18 through 59, and people's caregivers. So real high level is the services that are available through the Area Agency on Aging fall into these primary buckets. So it's support services, things like case management, legal services, and transportation. Nutrition services, the big topic of tonight, is congregate meals, so where people come together to be fed, and those home delivered meals. Health and wellness, I love, Carolyn, that you brought up the pieces about falls prevention. Health and wellness is about falls prevention. I have a lot to say about that, and I will not get distracted. Leading cause of death and injury, leading cause of people being transported to emergency rooms. The more prevention we can do for that saves people's lives. Caregiver supports. So these are the types of things that are respite care support services and training for caregivers, because we know as we age, people live interdependently, and support services are what we need at times. We have a handout that Cody has here, and we'll leave on the back table, that describes all of our services with more detail. And if you could take one of those handouts, ignore all of this stuff, but please remember that we have this thing called a hub. And actually, here's the access to the hub. But basically, within the Adult and Aging Division, we have a hub of resources. We've taken special efforts to partner with other services that provide aging and disability services and operate as a no wrong door system. So all people really need to know to do is to call that 565 info number, and you can work with a professionally trained social worker to try to get people connected with the services. So while we have an absence of a contract with coastal seniors, anybody who needs home delivered meals or specialty meals or caregiver supports or any one of those things, can call this one line, and that's the one number that people need to remember. That is a resource that goes on the back end. Oh yeah, we have the little handouts in place. All right, now I'm handing it over to Cody.
Great, thank you, Paul. So as program manager, I'm really responsible for taking in the dollars and then distributing it out into the community, really focused on local community-based organizations. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the process in order for that to happen. It actually takes a really long time. It takes multiple years for us to activate, operationalize money. And so kind of really taking a step back, we receive Older American Act dollars, which is the federal dollars. comes from the federal government, they pass it down to the state then passes it down to us. So we have to follow federal procurement requirements, we have to follow federal regulations, that takes multiple years for us to mobilize the funding we receive from them. So what I have on here is kind of the process that it takes to get through it. It runs on kind of a 4-year cycle, this process. So one, we have to conduct a needs assessment of the community. We have to determine what the needs are in the community. From that, we have to write a 4-year, what's called an area plan. And then from the area plan, we will write our request for proposal. So that's the RFPs that we put out into the community, seeking local community-based organizations. And then from the RFP process, we then have to award contracts, go through the contract negotiations. And then we have to follow that 4-year plan as it's written, and we do annual updates every year until it's time for the next 4-year plan. We are just starting our 2nd year of the current 4-year plan that we are in. So the next 4-year plan will start in 2028, that will run to 2032. The needs assessment, the very first step of this, we are starting in the spring of 2026. We've already internally started the conversation, so it's going to take us 2.5 years to mobilize the funds for the next fiscal cycle, for the next cycle. So just want to kind of put some context
Can I
around
just
this.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Out of your funding, what percentage is federal versus the non-federal?
For older American acts, for area agency on aging, we receive federal dollars that come in, the state puts in a little bit of money and gives it to us. I would say probably 95% of that is all federal dollars.
Thank you.
We get very little state funds added through this portion for area agency on aging.
And then a little clarification. Does, from what I've understood, and I'm not clear yet, does that mean that meals are not being delivered until the assessment is done? Like, so this doesn't really happen until 3.5 years from now?
So we currently have a 4-year plan, so that's 2024 to 2028. So we're in the 2nd year of that cycle of the current fiscal year plan. So the RFP process for the 4 years that we're in has already concluded, contracts were issued, and now we're just carrying out the plan for the 4 years. We're gonna start in the middle of this, preparing for the next 4-year cycle. So we're always a few years ahead of that area plan.
Thank you.
Does that help? Does that answer your question? Okay. So then I kind of just want to talk a little bit, this process, we really have to have the community involved. And so I just wanted to mention a couple of things. We do community surveys, we do focus groups. And so those are ways that you guys can get involved. That's participating in the surveys, getting the surveys out there, hosting focus groups, participating in those focus groups. At Area Agency on Aging AAA, we also have an advisory council, it's the Aging and Disability Commission. They are the direct advisory body to the AAA. Your involvement with that commission, that crossover, speaking with our commissioners gonna be out there with surveys, would be really important for engagement from the coastal region in those particular pieces. For the 4-year area plan, it goes through multiple levels of revision before it gets publicized. And so your involvement in that could be really critical. We do public hearings for people to be able to read it and see it. Our commission has to review it. Our board of supervisors, Sonoma County, has to review it before we can even submit it to the California Department of Aging, CDA, at the state level for them for the final approval. And so all of those will be public hearings we post to the commission, so really highly encourage folks to get involved, participate. My cards are gonna be some of the things that I leave. If you're interested in hearing about the commission or the meetings or public hearings or getting on our e-blasts for the agendas, you can send me an email, we can get you signed up through that. So that's kind of the process just to get funds for funding. And then kind of taking a step towards the next step with coastal seniors, specifically for home delivered meals. I have a section manager, Sarah. Sarah and I are gonna go out to coastal seniors leadership and have a meeting later this month. To have a conversation about moving forward and what that could look like. And then as a parallel process, we have connected with Mendo Lake County's AAA, because they also hold a contract with coastal seniors. And so we're actually looking at doing a combined site visit, so that we're all kind of on the same page, seeing the same things, working together. I think that will also help kind of boost our support at the AAA side. So we're gonna try to schedule an on-site visit kind of mid-October to come out, have a visit, have a chat, see how things are going. And then based on kind of those meetings and the on-site review or the on-site inspection, we're expecting kind of in the November time range, being able to determine what next steps are gonna look like for contracting with coastal seniors.
So that's the timeline, and presumably everything goes well. When does the money start?
So that's gonna be the kind of the crux of it, really.
Yeah.
Going back to this, my primary slide will go. So we have to issue, by federal law, we have to issue requests for proposals, RFPs. There has to be an application, we have to review, we have to award a contract in order to do that. Unfortunately, at this time, there was not an application that was done during the last RFP cycle. So now we're having to do an alternative procurement process. And so that is, I have not done this with my time with Sonoma County, so I might be able to answer a little bit more of how that process works.
Yeah, sure. So because we did an RFP process and we know that there's a region that wasn't supported, we can do what's called a single source waiver. So it's a waiver that bypasses the lengthy procurement process that Cody described. We reached out once we knew that coastal seniors didn't apply originally. And now this is just our reaching out again, doing some more in-depth technical supports. Once we know what the next steps are, we can do the single source waiver. It doesn't take nearly as long as what Cody described, but there are steps that we have to undergo. And I think the other big question that you might have been getting at is we've reserved money for coastal seniors already, knowing that we need to be providing support to this community. Did you not?
I have a question about, what about an unserved community? How would they, if there was, do they have to do their own survey to assess the need, or how does another community get involved or come on board? I mean, if you're going from Mendocino all the way, to wherever, I mean, that seems like too big a territory. So how does some similar thing start up?
Well, make sure that I answer your question correctly. If whenever we do like what Cody described as the 4-year area plan, we assume pockets of needs, but then global needs across all of the service categories that I described. And when we do a request for procurement, we want to look across all of the county to be able to provide the services. So there isn't a unique survey that needs to be done to get those services to that community. Although we're very interested in knowing what the local needs are, because they change depending on what community you live in.
So can I ask the question a different way? Given the process and given what you said, are there communities that are now not served within Sonoma County? Are there geographies and communities that are not served by these
Services?
important services?
There certainly are.
And so how do they get?
So I think this is,
How do they get involved?
I think that's the question. There seems to be a gap here.
Or is there a list of communities that are served and you can figure out if you're on the list or not?
That's a great question too. One of the reasons I brought Cody on to do this job is his ability to assess needs in communities. It's quite the Herculean effort, but we can do deeper dives with the data systems that we have now to find where those deserts are. That's just a word that I use. To find where there's food deserts are, absence of services for transportation, based on people's zip codes, who accesses our services, and having some knowledge through the surveys that we do about what are the needs for those communities.
There are pockets of services in every category that aren't being served as well as the main hub exams. The goal would be to be able to do that as much as we possibly can. How well we're able to do that with the very finite amount of money that we get from Older Americans Act is limited.
Well, and we appreciate that, but the county also has a $4.5 billion or $4.2 billion budget, and if this is in fact a priority, it should be funded commensurate to what the federal dollars are. I mean, there's at least that argument to be made. So I think one of the suggestions that I would make, Debbie, is the MACs cover the county, the coast of the county, in terms of interface with the public. I would hope that when you begin the assessment process in the spring of 26, use our facilities as MACs to engage the community, because I think this is an opportunity where we could be very helpful to you, very helpful to the members of the community that we, represent. So this gets at a very local level, which is different than, I appreciate surveys and understand the scope of what you're trying to, I mean, I can appreciate, I don't know. I appreciate the scope of what you are challenged to do. But this may be a real opportunity to put the rubber on the road at a very local level. So please, when the time comes to do this, I've made a note, you're gonna be invited to Bodega Bay, April or May of 26, and we're gonna do a broad community meeting. Let's talk about services. This is something we can do, and it's, mutually beneficial. Very good.
Yes, I agree to all that. Please, please, please.
I'll get your card before you go.
Something else that I wanted to add, kind of building on what Paul was talking about, this 565 info line that we were advertising here. They do kind of personalized navigation, so if there are people in the community that have not been able to access services and they are calling this number, all of the requests are documented and where they're calling from is documented. So we at AAA can actually get information from 565 info saying, we are getting calls from this region who are not receiving X service. And so that can help us also kind of build upon that a little bit more too.
Yeah, can you take your question, or do you want to wait till the end?
I actually wanted to say, it is a great number. We have that number on UG's website currently. We're super appreciative of the way you both organize information. And Scott and I were at one of your survey meetings, superb in Guerneville. And to get each one of the MAC representatives to have a meeting like that will certainly help filling that gap. So thank you guys for being working on stuff and putting together. It's clear both sides, and it was super informative and helpful.
I was trying to drill into what services available, and to access them, they're basically way down there, down in the 101 corridor. So, two questions. One, are services needs tested? No. Okay, and second, from Lake Sonoma to the ocean, from Mendocino County line to the river, how many dollars from the current 4-year plan are being spent in that area alone?
I would have to do some analysis to determine that.
That's just
on programs.
small, maybe.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's our issue, is that the services aren't here. Now we're sparse. So coastal standards is so important because they understand that. But there are other services that that with innovation could be here and there and serve these communities. And there's support.
Like the whole platforms, the technology is out there.
Yeah, happy to.
So, you get my point, is that we feel that we're ignored.
What I want to ask the question, how are the resources allocated? Is it per capita? How is it a geographic area?
are you referring to like the Old American Act funding?
What your programs are funded with, how are those funds allocated to the communities? You serve.
So it's based on, so multiple factors kind of go into it. The area plan outlines the whole process that is public. But really what they kind of look at is from the needs assessment, what are the top services that are requested that are Older American Act programs? And then we develop a ranking system to prioritize the services. And so the top priority, so if we receive an application for one of those top prioritized programs that were found in the needs assessment, that's how funding is awarded through the RFP process.
But you haven't explained how that works geographically.
That's part of the RFP process, is looking at what communities are served by each of the programs.
So if you have 10 people in area A that needs that top priority, whatever it is, and you have 20 people in area B, do the services get distributed per capita, or B gets it all because they have 10 more people in need?
It's based on the provider's ability to serve as large of a community as possible, right?
But we're small. So by definition, to your point, and yours, Scott. Lower population environments are at a significant, well, at some disadvantage relative to the allocation of funding. That is the key takeaway.
Yeah.
And I think that's something the county also needs to, balance out. It's, well, we understand there's a finite number of dollars, but back to your statement about, each individual and equity, the reality is somebody's making judgments that community A is more important than community B because there are more people there.
Yeah, I would.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way, but that's the implication.
Totally understood that that's the optics of it.
That is the optics.
How I would kind of describe something that actually Coastal Seniors and Carolyn described, their cost per meal, we actually reimburse, I believe, at your cost, compared to something that Council on Aging is able to do at $3 or $4 a meal. So we actually provide reimbursement or cost for services at a much higher rate, much higher.
And so, and that's very helpful. And please don't take, at least my questions or comments as accusatory or pejorative. I think we're trying to educate ourselves to a very complex, at least from the outside looking in, a reasonably complex process. So let me say, because I haven't, we do appreciate, the work that you are doing. We do. That there's no question about that. But it's helpful to understand this. So thank you for answering your question.
And could you clarify, when you said it depends on the provider is the provider in the case of Meals on Wheels, the person that prepares the meals and delivers them, or who is the provider?
Like Coastal Seniors would be a provider.
So you prepare the meals? I don't know.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, okay. So if there's another parallel organization, Bodega Bay, that prepares meals, that would be like a similar.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
that, I just wanted clarity around that, because providers are many things, and I don't know what.
And we
that
provide
means.
meals here.
Mhm.
Again, we didn't used to go beyond the Sea Ranch.
No, I understand.
No, we've got that.
Because you guys
doing it.
had nobody doing
Yeah.
it,
Nobody was.
Yeah, no, we,
and no one else did.
you've helped us understand that,
Right.
in high relief. Yeah.
But to ask your organization to go to Bodega Bay would just be the camel that would break the straw that would
we don't-
break the camel's butt, yeah.
We're at our.
Yeah, you're at the limit, I
We're
understand.
half an
Okay.
hour from Santa Rosa,
Yeah, I know,
2 hours from Point Arena.
yeah.
You drive fast.
Okay, do you have anything else that you'd like to say?
100%.
Okay, Frank, you have a question?
I have a question of you. And maybe you. And that's, as a member of this community, an uninformed member of this community, I'm shocked by the synergism that should have taken place much beforehand. We're talking now about getting this MAC board in sync with your office. And I'm really wondering why the hell that this hasn't happened in the past. I'm not looking for a problem, but I'm just trying to, I'm shocked by the lack of synergistic activity here.
Well, that's why we're here, Frank.
That's part of the mission of MAC.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to
We found out
listen.
about this and we're gonna move forward.
That's why this took place, because we're here listening to members of the community. We're all volunteers. We have, you know, we're just conduits and
Yes,
hopefully
This
facilitators.
MAC has been in composition for some time. This office has been in existence for some time. And I just kind of,
I think the issue
I
is,
hear
I'm
you.
new to MAC. I've only been here 9 months, but I think the observation that I would offer is that we're only as good as the members of the community that come to these meetings and speak up. We weren't aware of this until you were kind enough to come and Carolyn and apprise us that there was this huge disconnect. Then we can get involved, and clearly some good things have come out of this, but we're dependent on you as members of the community to let us know what is working or not working. And that's how this came about. I think it's a very positive thing, very positive thing.
to this office, or to the MAC and to this office.
Frank,
You're making warning signs to them.
Yeah, that's what
Well,
facilitate
yes,
all this.
I talked to CMAC when we went into
Yes.
the problem.
Yeah, Frank, this is exactly what
Way it
should
works.
have happened.
Yeah.
This is exactly what should have happened. A problem surfaced. Carolyn found out about it. She talked to me. I went to county and we're fixing it. So that's what we do. Why this didn't happen years ago, I don't know. I don't care. New stuff shows up and we deal with it. So I think we're doing a very good job here at fixing this problem.
Try.
We're trying our best.
Yeah.
really.
So I have
Yeah.
two things. One, there's somebody with their hand raised online.
Okay, sure.
And two, I just want to point out that for Brown Act protocol, the presenter presents the MAC dialogues. But public comment is a one-way dialogue and should not be responded to for Brown Act. So it shouldn't be when the public has a comment, they come up, they have their public comment. The presenter can come back and do some clarifying information, but it shouldn't be a conversation between the MAC and the public for Brown Act.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you for that
Yes.
clarification.
and the hand just went down.
Oh, come on.
Maybe she was intending for a different
Maybe that
item.
was her point.
Maybe that was what she had to say. I don't know.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Frank.
This is very, very valuable. There's some key people here tonight who really needed to hear this and will be able to help. And I'm sure there's a lot of our neighbors online here who, plus this is gonna be recorded, right?
Yes.
Or is recorded
And that's another reason that the back and forth kind of becomes difficult online.
Right.
Because then people can't hear.
Okay, so this will be available in some number of days here where people can watch this whole show if they'd like.
Yeah, the District 5 YouTube page. So you can reach out, it's easy to find.
Okay.
I want to say,
All right.
thank you for coming up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us forward to beautiful place in Wheaton.
It is.
Okay,
A great drive out and back.
okay, thank you. We're now going to transition over to the Carrington Ranch issue. So those of you who are not interested in that, if you could please quietly depart. Cause I know there are a lot of people online, but this is mostly a South area issue, so don't worry about your chairs. And we'll just try to be quiet and have your discussions outside. And we'll continue on for the people who are online. Thank you. I'm gonna ask our Vice Chair, John, to introduce this issue and manage the questions and whatnot.
Sure,
John, over to you.
happy to.
And then do you want to bring Steve? Steve is online. Steve Eric, you want to bring him online?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just from some table setting, several of us in the area of the Carrington Ranch property were getting questions and expressions of concern from residents about the planning process for the Carrington Ranch. And I would say that the county's regional parks website does a very good job of describing the Carrington Ranch, the project that is underway, the process. Kudos for the transparency in terms of the overview of what the project entails. This is about a 333 acre property that Regional Parks has become responsible for. They are working on a master plan. It's been several years in the making, as I understand. This is all by way of background. And they have arrived at this juncture, and the process is still, I think, underway. It is not concluded from what we are able to glean. But essentially, what is being proposed is a day use facility for hikers, the ability to facilitate or host camp 19 tent sites for overnight camping, a food prep and cleanup area, ranger housing or a ranger station of some sort. Regional Parks, according to the data that they've published, has estimated that there may be up to 200 visitors that might be using the facility at any one time. So that's by way of background. Several of us, as I said, were getting questions and expressions of concern from the community, and we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to do an informal community conversation where we facilitated a meeting at the Bodega Grange. It was held September 9th. More than 30 members of the community attended, representing Bodega Bay, Carmet, Sereno Del Mar, and a number of residents on or near Coleman Valley Road. I think by virtue of the meeting and the takeaways, there were several what I would characterize as universal and significant concerns expressed both about the specific plans that are being developed by Regional Parks for the Carrington Ranch project, as well as some concern about the planning process itself. Again, I would say, and Ginny can speak to this, Ginny attended a walkthrough hosted by Regional Parks, as did a number of the folks that showed up at the informal community meeting on September 9th. And I think that is what in part crystallized some of these concerns and heightened the number of people on relatively short notice. This was publicized less than a week in advance, and we still had more than 30 people from the community. If I could, I'm going to just characterize what we heard. And so this is inferred with careful observation and note taking. This was organized by Ginny, by Beth Pozzoni, and myself, is merely facilitating a listening session essentially. And there were several principal financial concerns raised. I'm going to go through them very quickly. Number one concern was heightened fire risks. And this relates to the topography of the site, the lack of water, and the lack of facility to store water, particularly for firefighting. The absence of alternative access roads for the response in the event of a fire. Right now, access per the plan of regional parks is to provide public ingress and egress on Coleman Valley Road. That is an issue unto itself, but it is absolutely related to these concerns about the ability to respond to a fire. And a number of members of the audience on the September 9th meeting wanted to understand how the current proposed plan to the extent it was congruent with the May 25 grand jury findings with regard to Sonoma County emergency evacuation planning that suggested there needed to be accelerated county efforts in identifying and mitigating areas with limited ingress and egress during emergencies. The members that attended this meeting, members of the community, also referenced the fact that there have been several fires in the immediate vicinity of Carrington Ranch within the past 6 years. So the observation was this risk of fire is not theoretical. It has occurred in this immediate area. Related to the heightened fire risk is what was referenced was the fragility of the Carmet water supply, which consists of several large tanks and exposed PVC piping. And and given its geography relative to the park, it would be extremely vulnerable to any fire that might occur. And it could in fact destroy the water supply to Carmet. And Sereno Del Mar, thank you.
Yeah.
So that was
Over 300 residences could be impacted if there was a fire that destroyed that there.
yes, so that was all related under the broad topic of concern about heightened fire risk. I think what has exacerbated community concern is there have been, at least as the community relate, there have been side conversations with county fire officials who have supported this notion that this is minimally concerning, if not ill-advised. And I'm characterizing what we heard, whether I can't attest to the factual nature of it, but there was a lot of emotion and a lot of certainty from members of the community that attended this conversation. So heightened fire risk, number one. 2, unsafe access via Coleman Valley Road. Coleman Valley Road is viewed as difficult and unfriendly. That's the way it's consistently described. It is essentially a 1-lane farm road. At maximum, it is 14 feet wide. It lacks usable shoulders because trees abut it, and a stream occupies the other side of the road. As a consequence, while there has been some discussion that the road that curbs or passage areas could be provided on the road, there certainly is a difference in opinion as to how the road could be made more usable if in fact there's going to be considerable traffic. There is a sense that it is really, even for residents today, it is not a terribly friendly road, and to open it up to substantially more traffic as the point of ingress and egress for this major park development is significantly ill-advised. The community felt strongly, at least what was expressed in this listening session, was that Highway 1 should be the ingress and egress access point for this park, as it is for a number of other regional and state parks. So Coleman Valley Road was the second concern. Third concern was water scarcity. The lack of water at the site is a major health and safety concern. The geology of the site is characterized as non-water bearing. 2 test wells have already been drilled that were dry. There's a spring study that is ongoing, but there is a view that it will generate a very low flow, insufficient for the uses that are presently proposed by the park plan. Concerns were raised about the extraction of any water from the site and the potential impact or depletion on the aquifer that supplies Carmet wells, given that only approximately 1,500 feet separates Carmet Drive from the park border. And we understand that Parks has, at least in this informal conversation on some of the site visits, said that water could be trucked in. And this would seem to be completely ill-advised given the condition of Coleman Valley Road. So we've got a number of issues that are interrelated. There are 2 others that I would reference in terms of our takeaway from this meeting. And again, we're characterizing what we heard, not necessarily offering personal opinions here, but it's an inappropriate scope and scale of this park plan for 19 tent sites, food preparation, cleanup, ranger housing, where none of that today exists. There were multiple suggestions that indicated Chancellor Ranch might be a more suitable site for tents and ranger housing. And the community specifically wished to understand if Chancellor Ranch has been evaluated or considered by regional parks and county planning for the facilities that right now are being planned for the Carrington Ranch. The last concern that we heard was that the communities closest to the park feels as if their concerns are either not being heard or they are being minimized and dismissed. And I would note, as the regional park site reveals, there have been a number of surveys, a number of opportunities for the public to comment. There is data that supports, at least the interpretation of the data supports the notion that people would use this as a campsite, which, so Parks has done a fair amount of data gathering with regard to potential uses. That said, the community expressed several things, that as early as 2006, petitions were developed and delivered to the county objecting to the potential use of Coleman Valley Road. And members of that attended this open forum had copies of these petitions. So we have seen them, we haven't examined them, but in fact, their concerns go back now at least to 2006. They also believe that a number of the concerns that have been expressed are being explained away without a lot of detail. And what this suggests then is a breakdown of sorts, despite county regional parks efforts to garner community input. And so as a consequence, the 3 of us, Ginny, Beth, and myself, are going to recommend to the full MAC, and this would be an agenda item, this would be agendized for the next meeting, that the MAC express its concerns for these issues and would offer several alternatives for consideration, provide park ingress and egress via Highway 1, not Coleman Valley Road, allow the park use only for day hiking, stipulate no open flames, no fire whatsoever, and the elimination or minimization of any ignition sources, allocate whatever water is available only for firefighting purposes and not to provide potable water to visitors, and evaluate the Chancellor Ranch as a site for camping and ranger accommodations. The last one, and I think this is a very interesting observation, that regional parks, and maybe they've done this, but it's not apparent anyplace. It'll be helpful to hear if this is on the agenda, but a coordinated multi-park master plan for the development of multiple closely spaced recreational sites, including the Carrington Ranch, the Chancellor Ranch, and the Hendron Ranch, which evidently is in the process of becoming a park property. The community perceives that each park is being developed independently rather than through a coordinated approach that would optimize the use of the properties, the access to the properties, parking, public facilities, and also the opportunity to take into consideration the needs of residents that border these facilities. So this was a very fruitful meeting. It went 2 full hours. There were, as I said, there were more than 30 participants. I didn't mean to get wound up and not give you an opportunity, but will you share?
Can we bring, we had intended to have as the beginning of this item and.
Well, I think it's important. This is what the community is saying loud and clear.
Yeah,
So,
but it's Steve, if you can unmute and give an overview.
and this just happened, so this is delightful that we get to meet you and get some input.
Debbie, just a second, you're good, yeah. Can I ask the memorandum that you were reading, did that be entered into the record? And
Well, it is only a proposed draft. Yes, it's a proposed draft.
you can restate it.
Yeah, I can add that to the minute.
Yeah, to the, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
I should have.
Thanks.
Sure. You did great. That's good. Oh, good, it's fine. You did wonderful. Thanks, Steve, for the speech.
Is it my turn?
Welcome, thank you. I can hear you. Yeah, terrific.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Eyre. I'm the planning manager with Sonoma County Regional Parks. And I'm excited to present to you tonight, answer questions, provide additional detail on the Carrington Ranch Regional Park in our proposed master plan. So I want to provide a little context and background, and then we can get into kind of clearing up some of the factual misunderstandings and talking about the different concerns. State Parks was going to acquire this and develop it. Our open space district, agricultural preservation open space district, acquired it in 2003. And at that time, State Parks started beginning planning work. First, they did the Sonoma Coast general plan. Many of you might have been involved in that process. That concluded in 2007. There was a number of meetings State Parks had. I attended a few of them. And in the general plan, it showed a couple hundred acres of Carrington, of the 300 plus acres, as being a facility development area. So the programmatic document that lives between the local coastal plan and the park master plan allows for a vast amount of development that, frankly, I think we all feel is unsuitable there. After that, they began working on a immediate use plan. In our lingo, it'd be an interim plan to try to get people out there as quick as possible and take time on their major development. So one of their motivations was replacing all of the Salmon Creek facilities across the road. So they had worked out a deal with open space to have a 6-acre facility development area for shops, administration, corp yards, all that stuff you see over on the other side of Highway 1 and expanded. We're not allowed to do any of that. There was discussion of visitor centers and all sorts of other expanded use, but the goal was the interim plan. Many get people out there on trails really soon. Many of the concerns were on similar topics as they are now, as they are at all park projects in Sonoma County. Traffic, fire, safety. We have 60 parks. We hear this in every community. And so we've learned a lot over the years about how to address this and work with the concerns. This interim plan is a big help because there was a lot of detailed studies that were done as part of that, with assumptions, a little outdated, but many still relevant. So it's a huge help. Meanwhile, we're in the middle of our own technical studies. So There are certain answers we don't have yet. And so it's perhaps a little premature to be taking hardline positions without all the information. But we're still working on our camping feasibility study, which includes a water component. We're still working on traffic study and so on. So all of that will be made available for review like it is for all of our master plans. Carrington is unique. It's very different than our other parks in the area. And it's also extraordinarily constrained. What we can do with it is pretty much a very basic passive park with a tiny little bit of camping. We can't do really a visitor center. We can't do a big facility development area. We can't do car camping and RVs. We can't do any of that. A lot of the properties, wetland. We have a lot of sensitive species issues. So it's very, very constrained, and we have a conservation easement on the property that prevents almost all development other than kind of what you see in our proposal. In the planned timeline, I want to mention, you all are no doubt aware in 2024, our local coastal plan update completed, and or at least the main document was certified, and that provides a kind of a comprehensive look at everything in the coastal zone, including parks. So you know, that's the document that coordinates a number of things at once. I want to speak a little bit on two specific topics and turn it over to kind of focused discussions on the broader slate of concerns that have been expressed. The first one is a bit about camping. So the big picture is none of us want the coastal zone developed into housing. We, as a county, we made the decision way back in our first general plan and our first coastal plan, we wanted on 101. That's where population belongs. But the trade is that people need to come and visit because it's all of ours. The coast is all of ours. And so that's the trade. And so we're always trying to figure out how to do that, minimize the impacts to resources, to the community, to neighbors, to other visitors, while providing that equitable access, because we really don't want a city on our coast. Our coastal park camping, Doran and Westside and Walala, Stillwater, they're maxed out. You have to call within seconds if you want to get a reservation, and it's fully booked throughout the whole summer. We're not alone. Camping has it was already skyrocketing for a long time, even before COVID, and now it's off the chart. So we have full occupancy. There hasn't been new public camping built in the county due to a lot of community concerns and other reasons for a very long time. In fact, we've had a reduction of some types of camping from various other regions. So the overall inventory is low relative to demand and interest. The State Coastal Conservancy, who's responsible for the whole coast, helping out, not regulatory, they're keenly aware of this issue in the entire coast, the lack of camping. And so they commissioned a study several years ago, and it identified Sonoma County as having the worst low-cost, affordable overnight opportunities. That includes camping, that includes hotels, that includes yurts, that includes public and private, that includes everything 1.5 miles inland. The worst in the entire for all low-cost camping, really focusing and zeroing in on the equity issue. Wants sites that support generators.
Steve, your internet is coming in and out a little bit. I don't know if there's anything you can do for that, but we're losing some of your sound.
Thank you, Debbie. Let's see if it gets better, and if not, then I can phone in for audio.
Okay.
I'm out in West County on wireless, so I live out near the coast, not in the coastal zone though. So my internet is marginal.
It's a little bit, and I'll let you know if it goes the other way. You could if it doesn't work after a little bit, you could just maybe turn your video off, but for now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, forgot that trick. And I can also try on my phone, which compresses better. So please cut me off if you need to. The Coastal Conservancy study noted the changing demographics, the different types of sites. It's not all just RVs and car camping. Interest in a broader range of sites. So we already had really high need of camping. It's been hotly debated around the county the entire 27 years I've been at regional parks, all parts of the county. It's an equity issue, it's an accessibility issue, and then the last big factor, and then when we do serve the public broadly, we just did one for all our members. Camping is one of the top interests, developing more camping. We're going to lose 80%, we estimate, of our coastal camping to sea level rise. So Dorn and Westside, there are approximately 200 spaces. Those are going underwater at some point. We already have groundwater impacts at Westside. We already have king tides overwashing one of our picnic areas. They're going away. It takes a really long time to bring new camping online. And we already closed Walla River campground for flooding. So 3 of our 4 coastal campgrounds are in sea level vulnerability areas and experiencing existing impacts now. Now, will the 20 or so sites at Carrington replace a couple hundred? Absolutely not. And one of the things mentioning about the demographics, we're interested in creating quality experiences for people. That's not packing them in like sardines like the days of yesterday for profit. It's about giving people a little privacy and a quality experience, a nature-based experience, a rustic experience, not one with machines and lights and generators, all that stuff. That's not our brand is a little different. So I want to turn now to vegetation and fire. So first, you may or may not be aware, but we've been actively managing the vegetation more in the last couple of years than the property has seen in decades. So we've done stack and burn with all sorts of different crews. We've done broadcast burns with fire agencies. We have more burns coming up this fall, and we graze. We graze thousands of acres, contracting with local ranchers. We're close to putting in a couple $100,000 of grazing perimeter fence. The fire threat, the fuel will be much lower underneath and is our ownership than for a very long time due to our active management. And almost all our 60 parks are wildfire areas, and we've had some parks burned twice. So we've learned a lot on response, on prevention in terms of how to deal with it, how to repair parks, evacuate, all that stuff. We've been through a lot of them because our parks are all over. So it isn't just, this fire, that fire's a bunch of them. Some basic stuff around fires. There's often a perception that hikers or campers start fires. And sure, lost hunters in the national forest may start a fire to get found, but most fires come from PG&E, they come from lightning, come from power equipment, whether it's on private or public property, mowers, catalytic converters, comes from arson, comes from homeless. When we last asked insurance agencies, well, what about, park visitors or something like that? It was so negligible, they didn't track statistics. So for one reason or another, that's in folks' mind. But regardless, we aren't proposing to allow campfires. And so consistent with industry standard in many of our other locations, we've had no issues with camp stoves. And that seems to have been fine for decades and decades. If it wasn't, we would all know that. One of the recent fires was some meth users from, I think it was like a couple other West County communities on the top of, they went on the Carroll Ranch coming off Coleman Valley Road, and their devices started the fire, a couple acres. We don't experience that so much. People that are bad actors, they don't want to be in public parks with rangers, and gosh, now we even have sheriff on board. Last thing they want to do is bump into law enforcement or the public who has a cell phone and immediately calls it in. Back in late 90s, there was the belief that if you just close down a park during fire season, it's less it's less dangerous. And what we had was CAL FIRE telling us, hey, they know they have political pressure to say we should close things, but they think it's safer to have more eyes and ears out there to report it, keep an eye on stuff. But as far as nefarious uses go, we generally displace those uses, and we do that a lot. So think about our Russian River parks, where there's all sorts of bad patterns. We come in, we bring active management, and those uses go somewhere else, cause problems somewhere else. A few other things, then I'll pause. We don't allow smoking. We are proposing a caretaker, staff housing, single small home, very modest. The oversight is one of the most important things for rule compliance and everything else. We train our staff in firefighting. We have over 40 folks trained, and that also includes natural resource staff and some of us planners, because we all get involved during emergencies. We carry equipment around. We work very closely with fire departments and CAL FIRE, not just on prescribed fires, but in many other ways too. So lastly, when we can, we like to build parks that pushes the edge of progressive fire design. So we get really frustrated when we can't get emergency responders in an area because there's a plastic culvert that burned down. Or our water tanks melted, or the pipes going to the tank melted because, certain materials were chosen or not undergrounded or whatever. So we like to reduce and address fire and veg all the way back to the very beginning, and not just the here's a fire, what do we do now? So look forward to talking about anything. And I may or may not have the answers for you. And the next step is for us to complete our studies, take the input received, and put back out an updated plan and a whole bunch of backup documentation. So thank you very much for having this discussion with us today.
Steve, thanks. I do appreciate it. Two questions, then we'll open up for board questions and then public questions. With regard to, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. While I get it back, questions from the board? Other members of the board, or council, I should say.
Steve, thank you for coming, or for bringing in and giving this presentation. I have a question that's more general than to just Carrington Ranch. Is there any plan within the park system here to put electric vehicle chargers out here? I don't know if you realize this, but at this point, there are 0 public access electric vehicle chargers between Bodega Bay and Fort Bragg. People with electric vehicles like to go camping, they like to go to the beach. Our economy depends on tourists out here. There are only going to be more of these electric vehicles, and commercial installations at businesses have not gone anywhere. County and parks in particular has plenty of places out here where we could do that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and if there's any plan.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the short answer is we have many electric charging stations in our parks in the county. And so we've successfully have partnered and done this a number of times. I cannot answer off the top of my head about the current proposals on our coast. It is our operations maintenance division that leads those. I believe they were looking at a couple coastal locations, and I'll be happy to give feedback to the 5th district to pass along. The complication is all the electrical upgrades that have to happen. So there is a site dependency. It's way more complicated than you think, but we believe in trying to provide a value add service and have as many clean vehicles as possible.
Okay, this would specifically be fast chargers, which is what tourists in particular need.
DC chargers.
DC, I guess is that. So thank you.
I have a question about Hi, Steve. This is Ginny Nichols. Thank you for your presentation and for this opportunity to speak almost face to face on these issues. A question about where is the Carrington Ranch Park in the planning stage? How much more time is it anticipated to take with the current proposal as it is to be completed?
Good question. So unknown, and it depends upon the comments we receive and the additional analysis we have to do. So at the moment, we're if things go smoothly, it would be less than a year before adoption. But that could easily change. Many of our master plans take much longer. Sometimes we're subjected to change code requirements mid-plan. That's happened to us a few times, and we have to go back and update things. So right now we've put out a couple alternatives. We're going to revise those alternatives, complete the backup studies, put those back out. Depending upon comments received, we may have to do more and then another round, or it might be good enough to move forward with some updates. And so I wish I had a more definitive answer, but it is tricky to pin down when we can't predict all the different stakeholders' input, including the communities and many other agencies.
May I ask, oh, sorry, Judy.
Then I have a second question, is whether or not for Carrington Ranch, the county has considered and investigated the possibility of making the ingress and egress to Carrington Ranch from Route 1. Has that? I know
Yeah, let me
there's
explain that. Happy to explain that. So it is not a possibility, period. And here's why. The first reason is Caltrans. Caltrans, for traffic safety, if that's the goal, intersections are far more dangerous than a narrowish straight road. And so traffic agencies always consolidate entrances. This happens in every traffic study all over. The second reason is the conservation easement prevents it. We are legally not allowed to do that. It would have a much, much bigger impact to the property, to the biological and cultural resources and others, if we were, which is why it was prohibited. The third reason is there's prehistoric cultural sites that would be impacted. Fourth reason is there's historic sites that would be impacted. The fifth reason is there's sensitive bats that would be disturbed by going that way. The sixth reason is the seasonal wetlands. I'm losing track of the numbers. The next reason is the road would be unnecessarily steep, or it would take up way too much, taking out the grade. The next reason is it would impact the viewshed more versus being tucked within the berms of Coleman Valley Road. The next reason is because it is tucked in the road, it actually reduces the noise versus having a noise generator on top. We rarely have to do noise studies, side note here, for our passive parks, because every study just says it's really just the cars going to them, not a few people talking in the park. Very different than ball fields. The noise studies are for real. The next reason is maintenance. It would be very much more expensive for us to take on the burden and create a whole new cost of dealing with the gravel road and the level of service it would need versus what Public Works is already doing on the existing impact of the road. So for all those reasons, especially the first several, it just is not a possibility. And State Parks proposal clearly identified all that a long time ago. So what I haven't heard in any of the opening statements is actually that State Parks was required to widen the road. It varies from 14 to 19 feet according to their traffic study. Again, ours is will be completed sometime, I expect probably late fall, maybe early winter. But the traffic study did not find basically identify that you can't come off there. It assumed that it looked at the state park work, also looked at all the different pros and cons of not only that access point, but a bunch of different locations of the parking area, There's been new resource information from them, but still helpful to look at as a resource and to try to see that. So we will be required to widen the road, no doubt, just like state parks was, to bump it up to fire safe road standards, to take out a couple of those trees and to do vegetation pruning, and some of which it needs right now, or line of sight, put some cautionary signs and some other basic mitigation. So if the goal was safety, one might think that folks would be wanting to expedite the park project because we're going to make the road, we'll be required to make the road, well, 900 feet of the 10-mile road, which is a little less than 2%. We're going to be making that 900 feet very safe for everyone instead of leaving it in the condition it's in now. Thank you for the question.
I guess the question that my follow-up is that there is a preliminary plan with 2 versions, right? Yeah, that's what I believe. There's a preliminary. I've seen maps, the 2 versions, the map. I think it's on your website, in fact.
But that's for trails only.
But my well, I think it also include campsites. There are several variables to it, but it sounds like this has all been decided. And I guess my question is, it's fine that we've got lots of experts and lots of perspectives, but where do local citizens play in this?
Well, we've appreciated the feedback to date, and we expect to receive more. And like every other formal process, we provide responses to comments. So different comments will impact different parts of the proposal in different ways. And but yes, we've had
essentially major decisions have already been made.
Yeah, a lot of them are regulatory, right? You know, like we don't control Caltrans, we don't control the Coastal Commission. There's a lot of decisions that are all outside our control. It's a highly constrained site. Yeah, you're correct that there's very little. It's basically a simple trail plan and a few campsites and a gravel parking lot and a caretaker. It's almost nothing. It's minor.
I'm curious about the water issue. You said, you know, I understand there's studies. If there is no water available or limited water, does it change the plan?
Well, we have to address it for sure. And so there's different ways. We still have a number of options we're looking into, and we'll be probably exploring further. It's not uncommon in West County or a number of our park sites where we have to drill a few holes to eventually find water. And there can be very productive areas and a very short distance away, not productive areas. So we don't have, you know, the closest wells are really far away, quarter mile or something on the other side of Marshall Gulch or state parks, which is right by the saltwater. So we're going to continue looking at a variety of options. But yeah, the amount of water.
If you're not able to locate water, what then is the alternative? What is the impact that would result from that?
Well, we have a number of parks without water. We have a number of parks with water, but not potable water, where folks have to filter it or boil it. So there's options, and of course, we're going to have water for fire. We're required to, and we want to anyhow. We need water for grazing. That's part of the fire approach as well for the animals. We need it does influence our options, and we do have a pretty big program of trying to minimize water use. Again, learned a lot of that. You probably remember the pay showers going in at Doran, where the surfers were letting the hot water run. So yes, it influences it. How little exactly? Don't know. Is trucking water the only option? No. As you might have heard in the letter, there's a range of other options, and we'll be more clearly addressing it. I understand your question. I can't be more specific. We'll do this if it's that, and we'll do that if it's that.
And let me just ask one last question, and then, you know, presumably if there are other board members or if the public, presumably, I think there's some people that may have attended the open meeting where all of this was voiced. To what extent is the study of is parks looking in an integrated approach between the 4 properties I referenced, Chancellor, Harrington, Hendron, or are these all being planned discreetly?
Thank you for the question. So let's touch on each thing to factually ground the conversation. So my understanding is there's a private nonprofit that is purchasing or working on purchasing the Hendron Ranch for their own property. So I'm not sure why the idea that there's a park being underway or so that is a long-term future speculative. We don't know what the nonprofit will do. It has many of the same constraints that Carrington has. Reminds us also of Tulare, but there is no formal park planning going on there. Different ideas and whatnot, I believe. Chancellor, which we still don't own, we're still negotiating with our open space district on the transfer. We're pretty close. We're not master planning Chancellor for a while. Chancellor has many issues that need more immediate attention. And, it's going to take quite a bit. We need to deal with the active erosion, faulty electrical wiring, whatnot. We're going to need to demo structures, or we need to understand the cultural stuff better before we can even demo and pull a coastal permit for it. So we haven't promised anyone any time of when we may develop Chancellor, and we're learning a lot more about it all the time. We do believe Chancellor will be able to host some overnight, maybe not the level of what the former owners have done legally and not, but it's not going to come close to addressing the hole that losing Dorn and Westside will be for the community, the business community, and so on. So it'll be important. But that's where Chancellor fits in. So Carrington acquired in 2003 that the public thought they'd get access to a long time ago. We're very far along, and that is our priority. And each of these projects, and I can't speak to Hendron because it's not our project, but every project, they have their own funding sources, they have their own timelines. So when you start joining apples and oranges, it gets really, really complex. You get a delay in one, and then all your funders on the other are pissed off, or your other deadlines, and it's really difficult. So the local coastal plan takes a big picture look, and meanwhile we're working on this part of Carrington, and we're working on just cleaning up Chancellor and stabilizing it and protecting the resources at this point.
And if I may, and actually Steve got to it before I did, but in terms of that comprehensive vision, that really is what the local coastal plan is for. And so, we obviously spent a lot of community engagement and a lot of engagement also with the CMAC on this. But basically all of our recreational development that moves forward within the coastal zone has to be consistent with our, coastal commission approved local coastal plan. And so would encourage you to look back at the recreation and open space parts of that.
So I think the last comment I would make is that given the emotion and the volume, the number of people that were present, there's got to be a takeaway here relative to the dialogue that is occurring. I mean, this conversation occurred because we were hearing it from individual members of the community. And this conversation is certainly extremely helpful. You, Steve, to your credit, you've brought a lot of facts to the table. All we had was individual points of view that were expressed to us. But what it says to me is this process is not working terribly well. If you've got 30 people, there are probably 300, one for every 10 that shows up have the same concerns. What's the mechanism to improve the communication with people that actually are directly affected by these questions? Because the permitting process is so diverse and diffused that, and frankly, off-putting, I think, to a lot of, individual members of the community. Is there an opportunity here for an open forum that should be organized with all the interested parties the fire organization, parks, planning, and certainly, the community members. So there's an open conversation to minimize the disinformation and address the questions that clearly, if you had been in this meeting and we had no idea, we thought maybe 3 people would show up. There's a real issue here in that there's a disconnect between the efforts, and as I opened with, the Parks deserves a lot of credit. The website is comprehensive, a great history, great sense of vision. But there's a disconnect as you get down to the decision-making process, and you've got a considerable number of people who do not feel as if they either know what's going on or have been heard and their issues addressed at a more satisfactory level. And so this is why this conversation is great, and I want to thank you for being here. But what do we take away from this? That we're this far down the process, and you've got all these people out there who are extremely concerned. These are real issues to them. Shouldn't there be an open community meeting where all of this is discussed?
Yeah, so if I may, we definitely were hoping that would happen, but we found out about the community meeting with about 24 hours notice. And so I think that, in the future, if you guys want to hold a community meeting, that we could actually work collaboratively together to plan it, because I think it is really frustrating when folks provide feedback in a vacuum of information, right? And that's kind of what happened. If we were able to sort of start with, here's a presentation, here's where we are in the process, here are the constraints on the site. Now let's have feedback, right? I think that would actually be much more productive for everyone involved. So I would just ask that, the next time that we have a community town hall, that it might be helpful to have, regional parks there so that we can actually make sure that we're all operating under the same set of facts. And then we're able to have those discussions, right, within the realm of like, what can we actually change? Yeah. What are the concerns? So I think that's really the hope, and that was
That's a great observation.
As we could.
That's a great observation.
Town hall.
And that's exactly what we're going to do as this MAC, is we're going to have a lot of town halls. And this was the first one. I think we learned a lot from it, but there's a real benefit that comes out of this, in that there is this fundamental disconnect between what one organization is doing and what the community perceives is going on. That's the takeaway here. And I think the opportunity is to address it and fix it. And so Linda, I think your suggestion is a perfect one. The next time we do one of these, we had no idea what to expect. As I said, we thought we might have 3 people show up. There were 30 and we did it on short notice because we wanted to do it in advance of this MAC meeting. So we could in fact raise some of the questions. So points well taken. We know more about the next time we go at it, but I think this is terrific because it encourages us to have more of these community listening sessions. Yeah. That's great.
And if I may, I actually want to give regional parks credit. As an example, we recently purchased and with Save the Redwoods League, the Monterey Redwoods expansion. Yep. And so, regional parks actually led a meeting that was specifically for the direct neighbors and communities that are adjacent to the park. And there were, half a dozen regional parks staff there, right? Steve, at the meeting, we stayed for as long as anyone had questions, took all the questions in open with everybody there, and then also stuck around in case anyone wanted to have smaller side conversations. So it is absolutely part of regional parks process going forward. We just didn't get a chance to do that before you held yours. So I think as long as we're just talking and working together, hopefully we'll be more productive in the future.
That's perfect.
I'd like to add too, and we have a lot of experience doing meetings over the decades, and a lot of times they can become contentious. And verbal information works for some people and not others. It's a very useful format, but the written word really, and the data grounds everybody. When here's the facts, here's the thing you can respond to, not just hearsay, especially around technical items. So in some cases on this project, we have shared a lot of this information multiple times. Have it printed, have it verbalized. We've done the CARMET meeting. I've taken some of the neighbors out myself on the site. So there's a whole range of methods, but a lot of times just the talking doesn't get to the bottom of of the data. So the websites, the actual material is super important.
Great. Other questions? I don't know if there's anybody that's.
Well, I just had one question, and please excuse my ignorance. Do Chancellor Ranch and Carrington Ranch share a border? Are they?
Yes.
They share a border. It seems to me like in the really bigger picture in the future, that having a whole park together with both of those parcels would address a lot of community concern, cause Chancellor Ranch is fairly developed. It does have camping, it does have water. People could hike from Chancellor Ranch into Carrington Ranch, couldn't they? I mean, I don't know,
No.
cause you can't, so there's something in between.
Yes, let me explain the connection, because I have seen that in some of the correspondence, and this is identified in a number of documents, including the local coastal plan. So so Salmon Creek is what separates them. There's a big, huge, steep, wet slope that goes up to Carrington. The conservation easement prevents any trail access down there in any crossing of Salmon Creek. So that leaves us one way to get across, and that's Caltrans. So as you may know, we've built the Coastal Prairie Trail, which removes cars off Highway 1 and gives the community of Salmon Creek a way to get into much more of the core Bodega Bay without having to travel on Highway 1. We built that on state parks and county property. That terminates at Keefe at Salmon Creek. We have in the coastal plan the requirement for when Caltrans replaces the Salmon Creek Bridge to make it safer for bikes and pedestrians. So a class 1 on both sides, class 1 bikeway, like you see on one side of the new Gleason Bridge. So that's protected, separated. So you have all 4 sides are park. And so you have a need for people to get across and a need for people to go straight. So on Carrington, we have a trail proposed. You'll see it on the plan, right where it looks like it should be, coming in just a little bit above the bridge where the topography can accept it. On Chancellor, we're negotiating the corresponding trail coming to the bridge with open space. It has not been easy. We already have the trail by Keefe and Salmon, and then you have the state park facility. So we're dependent upon Caltrans, and we're legally restricted from crossing and connecting those two. Chancellor Ranch is seen as a more, has a longer history of recreational use, and is not, the marsh is very sensitive, but the rest of the property is not as sensitive compared to Carrington. So in some of our eyes, we see them as kind of different, but the coastal trail needs the connection because the coastal trail is going onto the other side of the highway and through Carrington. So this is going to tie in just short of Carmet ultimately and be able to give all these folks who are driving a chance not to drive and to get off the road and reduce the cars. And so that's all the vacation rental folks, that's residents, that's everybody. So hopefully that explains more about the connection.
Yeah, thank you.
Debbie, are
there any questions out there?
I'm seeing a hand raised from Renata. Please unmute to speak. And Renata, you will have 2 minutes for public comment. You should see a timer. Do you see a timer?
I do not. I do see a timer. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate this forum immensely. Thank you to Supervisor Hopkins for making it possible for us to speak together about it. And thank you to the CMAC and to Mark Cleveland and Steve Arrett for speaking to the various public meetings about Carrington. I'm a neighbor up on Coleman Valley Road. I run an agricultural property. I have ranch land, cattle, and I kind of speak for a number of my neighbors up on Coleman Valley Road about the worry and the risks associated with bottlenecking what is our evacuation route off of Coleman Valley Road and is an evacuation route for West County, Occidental West in the face of a fire. I also want to point out that there were a few things that were just described in this conversation that really don't match the documentation, and maybe it'll be a chance to clarify that. But everything I've read, it says that the constraints on Coleman Valley Road with trees and with the drainage would only allow sliver widening between 16 and 18 feet and would never make it to a 20-foot fire-safe road standard. And so I think that's something that's really important to discuss here, because that is not anywhere in any of the documents. I also want to kind of step back for a second and say that the state park IPU was half the size of what is being proposed by regional parks right now. And those studies that state parks did, which were 100 maximum visitor capacity and 30 parking spots and water that they hoped would come from a well, that basis for that IPU was what the zoning was used for the zoning change by the Coastal Commission to call this quasi-public land instead of ag land, which is what it was.
We're over time. Sorry, Renata, please wrap up your thought.
Well, my point is regional parks has doubled the size of what state parks originally planned. And there is safety element now and new CEQA requirements and new fire code requirements that make the concept of building out a park around a substandard 16-foot wide road.
I'm sorry, we're over time.
That's all right. I think we'd like to hear the rest of the comment. Please, go ahead, Renata.
Through the chair, would you like to extend the time?
Please continue.
Renata?
She'll just need to unmute on her end. I've allowed her to speak, so if she's able to unmute, then she can continue the comment. Otherwise, we have a hand raised.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, just to wrap up, there are new CEQA wildfire criteria that would clearly be triggered here with a proposal to build a campground in this site as potentially significant. There are very high fire hazard lands surrounding Carrington, and there is a section of Carrington that is a high fire hazard area now. Carmet and Serena Del Mar are map sensitive to climate change by Sonoma County, and Sonoma County has a new safety element with maybe 12 to 15 policies that all say that adequate water and fire access are like a mandate for any new development. So my understanding is that there's a spring study under development at Carrington to see if they can find water for the residents. But if you read the proposals and the plan, trucked water is the backup plan to provide water to the residents. That is not a fire-safe water supply for this development. And I don't want to overuse my time, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Renata.
Thanks, Renata.
Thank you so much. And we will take all public comment and then provide time to Steve for a response. Beth, please unmute to speak.
Good evening. Sorry I could not be at the meeting earlier. As a CMAC, I had a previous commitment, but I am here as a member of the public at the moment. My first comment is that I understand the CMAC meeting was done relatively quickly. And Linda, just so you know, I believe your staff knew before you did, just so that you are aware of that well before 24 hours. But I do know you found out about it 24 hours prior. Steve, would you commit to coming to another town hall in the very near future to meet with these people to go over all of this information? And would you commit that from that town hall change will occur, that people aren't just wasting their time? That's my question. If Steve would have the opportunity to answer that, that would be great.
Thank you, Beth. I'm not seeing any additional hands raised.
Oh, got one here.
Oh, Anne, please.
I just,
Anne?
We have one in.
Oh, let go first.
Oh, okay,
I want to
okay.
go last.
All right, so we have Anne.
Please unmute to speak, Anne.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Well, thank you, Steve, for being there. Being here tonight. My name is Anne Donovan Hennigan. I'm a resident of Carmet. And
I'm sorry,
did you
Anne,
lose me?
I lost you. You're back now.
Okay, all right. This has been a very thorough discussion. I think the few neighbors who were able to be here tonight really underestimate the amount of interest and concerns that Carmet residents have, Serena Del Mar also, in regards to the project. One of my biggest concerns is water. Currently, our spring provides about 8,000 gallons per day with a usage of about 120,000 to 150,000 gallons per month. This is for 64 houses in Carmet that are not all full-time residents, and that's quite a bit of water. It is spring-fed water. It is not a well. And so, you know, from what we heard during our walkthrough, the identified spring for H2O source on the south end, they did a dry test and so far no water, just mud. So you were a little bit vague. Maybe I just didn't understand, Steve. If there is not a viable water source, how can there be a rationale to have campsites and cabins on the premises? Also, I guess before my time is up, I'd also like to know, Steve, will you be presenting before the Sonoma County Environmental Committee at any time? And also, the surveys that were done, will Sonoma County Regional Parks be releasing those results to the public?
Thank you, Anne. I'm not seeing any additional hands raised. Oh, I'm seeing a hand from Julie. Julie, please unmute to speak.
I'm Julie Schneider. I spoke earlier. I'm in Carmet. And thanks everybody for their time. And I think the CMAC did a great job at articulating all of my concerns and did a great job at articulating everybody's concerns at the meeting. I don't feel any better. I have to be honest, Steve, after hearing your responses. I'm still concerned about fire, still concerned about all the safety issues. Now I lost my train of thought, but I do want to say, I think that if anybody has more things to say, they should get more than 2 minutes, because we sat here through this whole meeting and listened to the whole thing with people asking millions of questions and going on forever. But I might have more to say in just a minute, but I'm going to stop talking right now.
Okay, we have one in-house question here.
Hi, Scott, farmer, Cruz Ranch. This is more general, and it's following up on Chair Foster's comment about EVs. I interviewed every business from the Wallah River to Jenner about installing fast charging. I talked to several vendors, and their business model just does not work in our environment. They're looking for places people can shop, big parking lots. They don't exist. The parks are where these EV chargers should be. I've spoken to state parks. They're actually interested in Salt Point having some public fast chargers to complement their fleet charging. We looked at, we'll all appoint regional park as a site next to the maintenance yard, a shared fence. Enabling regional parks to charge their fleet and the public, visiting public to do fast charging on the other side. There's adequate connectivity and power in those locations. Just want to make Steve, you aware of the importance of the parks in our area for establishing EV charging stations for traveling public. That's where it's gonna land, and I wanted you to be on board. Thank you.
Are there any more hands?
Yes, James, please unmute to speak.
Yeah, hi, this is Jim Kearns. I live in Carmet also. Yeah, Steve, I want to thank you for your presentation. It's a rough job putting this information in front of all of us who are concerned, and the CMAC also for representing us. You know, two things. One, Supervisor Hopkins suggested a session for all of the local populace to meet and discuss this in a formal forum. I'm wondering how we make that happen. How do we ensure that we get a meeting like that scheduled so that we can have that discussion? And two, from the beginning, it's always felt like this is a project being shoehorned into a bad location. That's just my personal opinion. I realize there's been studies about affordable accommodations, but it just feels like this is a project that's there's a piece of property that the regional parks own. There was a desire to do something, and it just feels like it's being shoehorned in to a location that's got all sorts of negative ramifications. But that being said, again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sitting through it. And again, I guess I'd ask CMAC or anyone else, or if Supervisor Hopkins still on the phone or on the meeting, how do we get a session set up where we can have a bigger discussion about these issues? Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie, please unmute to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Kari Hendricks. I own a home in Carmet. And I appreciate the need for accessibility, and I agree that the coast belongs to everyone. Having said that, I think this proposed campground will not make a difference in that regard. Given the water, fire, traffic issues, along with the community pushback, I think this seems like a bad idea. But I would support a different proposal that has a bit. I agree with Jim's comment about it being shoehorned into an area that they have available, but I just don't think it's a good fit. So I just want to make that known. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kari. I'm not seeing any additional hands raised.
Well, thank you. This was a more extensive discussion than we thought, but I think it was very helpful in putting more facts on the table. And I think the gentleman that suggested a larger meeting where a larger audience would be privy to the presentation that you laid out, Steve, would be extremely helpful in moving the discussion forward, building more knowledge within the community about the project, and certainly, some of the comments that were made tonight do raise, continue to raise questions, particularly about the road and fire safety. And so, you have an opportunity to think about that before we all get together and how that'll be addressed. But I think that, what we've seen as the community is very concerned about this, and certainly as a MAC, we want to be sure that the county has every opportunity to understand that and facilitate the conversation. So, and now we're going off the air. That's the sound from off at the end of the broadcast they play. Anyway, Steve, thank you again for joining. Very nice of you to do this, and very helpful to get the information that you shared with us.
And I would also like to add that we do this every 2 months. These are local issues that are very important to everyone that shows up. And some of those people are not as articulate or as concise as we are. And it's important to give those people a chance to talk. So I'm sorry, whoever was concerned about running late on this and having to listen to everybody else, but that's a community meeting. So we'll stay here as long as it takes.
Anyway, that concludes this. No, sorry, Linda, how nice of you that you stayed with us. Thank you.
And through the chair, if I may, just to follow up, because there were a number of calls for an additional community meeting. I just want to say that we're happy to host, you know, a 5th district meeting in partnership with regional parks. Obviously, great to have it not in Timber Cove, but closer to the site so that folks are more easily able to participate. What I would like to suggest, though, is that you let us huddle up with regional parks to find out when the right time would be. Like, are some of those studies close to actually being completed, in which case it would make sense to actually have more information? Because I think that we all agree that, like, the more information that we're able to talk about specifics, the better off we are. And then I just wanted to hand it over to Steve to see if there were anything else you wanted to add about the meetings or any quick corrections.
Yeah, just want to touch on a few quick things. Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins. Thank you, community members who have voiced concerns. Of course, the community is much broader, and there's many people excited about the project as well. Not just ones that are excited and concerned, and ones that are unexcited and concerned. All the above, which is what we find all over the county. So, quick couple things. We're not proposing to build a parking lot on a 16-foot wide road or whatever it is in a particular spot. We'll be required to build 20. You can see the bank. There's a few trees. There's a slope. I'm unaware of any constraint, and I believe to widening the road. I believe I've shared that with you before, Renata, in that we widen from the bank side. Those trees are not protected. We're not widening on the creek side. It's only a couple feet to hit standard. We're not doubling use. So the state park immediate use plan did propose a certain level of use. If it looks like you got into the traffic study, which was based off rates for aquatic facilities and athletic fields. So they used a state park average, which includes highly intensive developed. So if you look at those numbers, that isn't what we would expect or what we experience. So there's some kind of apples and oranges on when you get into the actual use level and how that relates to traffic. The water issue, again, we look forward to presenting a feasibility study that addresses this issue and lays out the options and all the different things we explored. So that will be forthcoming at some point in the winter. Along with all the other studies, we're required to meet all the requirements. That's the way it works for government. We don't get away with it. So, hey, if it's a fire requirement or restriction or regulation, we have to follow it. That's what we do. Along with traffic, along with every other rule. So no one's proposing to break any rules, and there's ways of meeting many of them. I think it's important to keep in mind that the LCP, Local Coastal Plan, identified and confirmed Carrington as appropriate for this use. And that the uses since the original acquisition in 2003 of what was proposed have been downsized dramatically. So the state was going to come back and propose a whole bunch of facilities overnight. You can see very clearly in the extracts from the state park general plan to their Carrington use plan, camping is featured very prominently. So they were headed that direction to deal with all the issues as well. So I think another question on are there campgrounds without water? Yeah, state parks like Reef Campground doesn't have water at the moment. We have walk-in dry camps, national forests, national parks. You just communicate what the water status is ahead of time, so you don't get someone who needs water going there. Is that what we're proposing here? Don't know. We're not sure yet. We'll get back to you on water availability, but that is a common practice. Everything in between. Yes, we'll be going to Environmental Review Commission at some point. That was a question. A county body that deals with county proposed projects that the public attends. And I will leave it there. So thank you for all your comments, and we look forward to future conversations. Much of this information, a lot of what I've shared has been and is still online in various places and has been for a long time because it has to do with what decisions in the past before we got involved. So hopefully you're taking advantage of our frequently asked questions and all the information online. And the more you can encourage people who go to meetings to learn, the better off, the more informed and the better discussion we can have instead of, retreading factual information. We did a whole range of notification and email blasts and marketing and outreach and surveys, a number of stakeholder meetings. We've done a whole range of community engagement, as we always do, and we always experience there's folks that learn about things late, et cetera, et cetera. So we're always trying to do better, and we recognize people get their information different ways, and our goal is to try to meet them where they're at. So thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to seeing you all and along with other regional park staff in the future.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank
Still
you, Linda.
online.
Long day.
Oof, long day, but that's why we're here.
That's your daughter.
Best
Next.
to your daughter, yes. Any comments, wind-ups from the board? Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Yeah, you guys, thank you for coming.
This is, these are huge issues, and, if we're here, what we do in the morning, we're going in the night, we deal with it. And also, this is why we have a MAC, be able to address local issues, so if you got an issue, this is the place to. Anything else, anyone? I'd take a motion to adjourn. So,
Second the motion.
and a second, good,
Yeah.
all in favor.
Aye.
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 Thank
Thanks.
Thank you.
That was not bad. That was a long time.